Repeat after me.
Okay.
Crispy, juicy, tender.
I just put my newborn son into a blender.
Benjamin Lay was a little person who used to kidnap slave masters' kids to teach them a lesson about what it was like to have your families ripped apart because of slavery. My man's literally lived in a cave because he was like, you guys are literally the most disgusting, evil people in the world for owning slaves. I literally cannot live with you. I'd rather live in a cave infested by roaches than be here with y'all, so. Not only was he an abolitionist, though, he also believes in things like gender equality. He was a vegetarian and grew all of his own food. And he also made all of his own clothes to stand in solidarity with the slaves who were being forced to pick cotton. His beliefs were later published by Benjamin Franklin, and he was because of Benjamin Lay that Franklin later freed his slaves after he died. Follow along to support the film I'm making about dwarfism, because we're going to be talking about history like this.
Been tagged in this video multiple times, and I see why. Tazo and milk. If you drink Tazo and milk, bestie, it's time to step it up. Come and binge my channel. After marrying an Indian, tea bags, milk works in a pinch. I want to see more. Let's see. There it is. 8+ years of being married to an Indian, measuring the spices from the heart. Masala dabba. Just flexing right now. Water, spices, tea, milk, strain. Look at the precarious position of that picture. Amazing. I have nothing to say. Good job. Amazing.
You gotta see the artistry in tearing the place apart with me, baby. I am unruly in the stands. I am a rock on top of the sand. I am a fist amidst the hand. I break it just because I can. Let's break it just because we can. Deface it just because we can. Let's break it just because.
And also, and I'm gonna touch your hand when I say this. When I said that you're not special, I meant that.
So I'm non-binary, and for a while I've still allowed people to refer to me as he, him pronouns, right? But I met a friend recently who asked me a question that has stuck with me ever since. They asked me, when identifying as male, or if you accept he, him pronouns, did you ever feel seen? And God, when I say that question, like, hit me like a ton of bricks, I realized no. I didn't feel seen or heard or validated when I was only identifying as male and still accepting he, him pronouns. So that's done. We are big they, them over here. Exclusively. I like it. Picasso, I like it.
We found a spider in the house. You freaked and you jumped up onto the couch. Since I was close and able, I jumped up on the coffee table. You said you should kill that. I said no, fuck that. You said come on, be a man. What? You're a total anti-sexist, a patriarchy fighter, but your whole worldview collapses the moment there's a spider. Cool, I get it, this is the real you. It's a pleasure, nice to meet you. Shit like this brings the movement down. Everyone's a feminist until there is a spider.
I need to see more black and disabled representation. So I remember getting into it with my partner because I was like, all ables are starting to look and act the same. And they got offended and tried to put out reverse ableism shit. Fuck anything reverse. Because y'all don't care on this forward. Unless it's a position. Anyway. And I was just going through Hulu, Netflix, Apple TV, to look for something refreshing, something new, a new fucking story, right? And it's just all the same people, the same, especially black movies, they recycle the plot over and over again. And it's like, even on TLC, like, they only give, like, shows to, like, white disabled people. And it's like, shit, at this point, put me on TV. And it's like, I know I'm a basic bitch. I don't do anything to talk shit. But it's like, if Kim Kardashian can have her own show and make $1 billion, why can't I? That's true equality. Let me shut up before she shoot us and kick my ass with a lawsuit.
We found a spider in the house. You freaked and you jumped up onto the couch. Since I was close and able, I jumped up on the coffee table. You said you should kill that. I said no, fuck that. You said come on, be a man. What? You're a total anti-sexist, a patriarchy fighter, but your whole worldview collapses the moment there's a spider. Cool, I get it, this is the real you. It's a pleasure, nice to meet you. Shit like this brings the movement down. Everyone's a feminist until there is a spider around.
On me, now come and get high.
What are they cooking this time? Quick, what's more important than accurate, unbiased news? That's right, baby, money. Maybe you've heard about the defamation lawsuit filed by Dominion Voting Systems against Fox News. In this document are transcripts of Fox News hosts openly conspiring to lie to the public about the 2020 election results to compete with Newsmax, even going so far as to suggest firing hosts for telling the truth. Very unsurprising, right? Well, telling the truth isn't the function of major news networks. If you want someone to blame, Reagan and Clinton deregulated the FCC in such a way that transformed news companies into these untruthful profit machines, making politics and entertainment incredibly intertwined. Tucker Carlson is terrible. Yes, we should absolutely dogpile him, but also remember that it's not his job to tell the truth because truth often gets in the way of profit. Keep in mind that this is not just conservative media. CNN is also not great. Turns out getting boomers riled up is a very profitable industry that knows no political affiliation. I want to eat that.
Where's Rick?
Don't care.
You want to ban drag show readings to children?
To minors, yes.
Why?
Why?
What are you protecting?
Why can we prohibit children from voting, those under 18 from voting?
Why are you
but
banning?
Also that?
Is that free speech? Are you infringing on that performer's free speech?
They can continue to exercise their free speech, just not in front of a child.
Why?
Because the government does have a responsibility to protect.
I'm sorry?
The government does have a responsibility in certain instances to
What's
protect
the
children.
leading cause of death amongst children in this country? And I'm going to give you a hint. It's not drag show readings to children.
Correct, yes.
So what is it?
I'm presuming you're going to say it's firearms.
No, I'm not going to say it like it's an opinion. That's what it is. It's firearms. More than cancer, more than car accidents. And what you're telling me is you don't mind infringing free speech to protect children from this amorphous thing that you think of. But when it comes to children that have died, you don't give a flying
Okay. Shh. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me. Very good. I love seeing everyone's wacky hair. It's so silly. McKaylee, you and me are like twins today. I guess every day's wacky hair day for you.
Cry about this and whine about that. When you grow up hair, you can call me back. Yeah, I think you're hot, I think you're alright, but you're acting like a chick all the time.
I saw a tweet a few weeks ago that said something along the lines of, if capitalism rewarded hard work, then sweatshop workers would be billionaires. And I wanted to talk about it because I think that it actually does a really good job at pointing some holes that capitalism just has within its inherent logic that we need to talk about. So without further ado, I think that this is a really good place to start the conversation. When I was thinking about making this video, I wanted to check if I could actually use the term sweatshop, because although that was originally used in the tweet, I felt like it held a lot of weight. So I wanted to look a bit into the background, and boy, oh boy, did I find some classic capitalist propaganda right off the bat. So here it says, is sweatshop a derogatory term? It generally refers to a workplace where relatively unskilled employees work long hours for substandard pay and unhealthy, unsafe conditions. But this begs the question then of what is unskilled labor? It's tossed around in my comments all the time, especially referencing myself, who's an EMT. So obviously I'm going to disagree with the statement that being an EMT, which deals with life and death on a regular basis, is unskilled labor, but it's used to justify the fact that I only make $14.50 an hour. So let's look at the definition of unskilled labor. Unskilled labor is labor that requires relatively little or no training or experience for its satisfactory performance. So now, just to sum it up, we have right here where it says relatively unskilled employees, relatively little or no training. So both of these definitions have the word relative in it. And I'm just curious, relative to what? Here it's relatively little, then what is considered a lot of training? Is it years of experience on the job? Because then trades would involve more training than something like an MBA. Yet when we look at the educational background of people like CEOs who are often used as that example of skilled labor for no other reason than we have to, because we have to justify giving them billions in some way. And so capitalism does that by saying that, well, they have this skilled labor. So I was curious, is it the training? Is it the education that's that hard to get? But MBAs only take 1 to 2 years. So then it goes back to maybe it's on the job training, maybe it's personal experience that you have had. But at that point, it's how do you quantify that? Because do you think that a businessman has more education or skill than a surgeon who went to school for years and years? Does it matter if it's the businessman versus the engineer? Is it the businessman versus the nurse? Do you see my point? It will always be the businessman versus others because the businessman is the one making the billions. So clearly that is where we are pinpointing skilled labor, because that is skilled labor compensation. So by that point, everything else must be relative. But just to circle back to this definition of unskilled labor really fast, it says here for its satisfactory performance. And my question to you is, given how the United States government works with lobbying and with corporate bailouts, how is that seen as a satisfactory performance when our government has to constantly bail out the rich nonstop? How is that satisfactory? And how is that the skilled labor? I guess my point is that these definitions of unskilled and skilled labor to be circular at best, and they seem to be reliant on the fact that we are deeming those that are receiving skilled labor compensation as providing skilled labor to society, and ignoring the fact that these skilled labored people are manipulating these free markets to give themselves the most profits via monopolies, because again, that's the most profitable business model. Also, unskilled labor is a classist myth.
Remember, kids, the next time that somebody tells you the government wouldn't do that, oh yes they would.
But there's something about watching Black TikTok collectively decide that they're going to gentrify Hogwarts.
No, facts, because everyone knows that commodity consumption, when done by Black people, makes it better. Maybe I'm a class reductionist, but I don't see what's based about Black people spending $60 to play a shit game that supports a transphobe. And even beyond J.K. Rowling's flaws and the flaws of the development team and the flaws of the game itself and the flaws of the very franchise, even beyond all of that, Black joy and the concept of Black people using revolutionary enjoyment has never included commodity consumption, ever. If you want to play the game, play the game. Who cares? But stop doing the thing where you try to find every single reason why you playing the game is actually based. Because reverse gentrifying Hogwarts is the worst excuse so far.
The human centipede doesn't seem that bad, because what if I get to be in the front? But then...
What if birth control was available over the counter? Take a look what that would look like. The matriarchy's coming. A 2022 survey showed 77% of women aged 18 to 49 actually favor over-the-counter birth control. The FDA is considering it. Here are some of the pros. Access to affordable prescription-free birth control can help reduce the rate of unplanned pregnancies. Plus, the availability would increase access for lower-income populations and for places where reproductive care isn't as easily available. Getting a doctor's appointment can take super long and cost a lot of money. Birth control over the counter can help reduce some of these barriers.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
We love a green light good news day. One senator in the state of Arkansas just single-handedly halted one of the worst anti-trans bills in America using nothing but words. Senator Clark Tucker took to the podium and spoke out passionately and eloquently against Arkansas SB 270, a bill that would ban transgender adults from bathrooms if children are present. This bill would have charged adults with sex crimes. It would have criminalized being trans in America. Listen to bits of his speech.
I've got a few things I need to say about this bill, so I hope y'all will bear with me this afternoon. You already know what the first comment is going to be. This bill is an unprecedented step toward criminalizing being transgender in America. When you boil it down, what it does is makes it a crime to be a transgender adult in Arkansas. Now, you can parse words with me and say, oh, it only applies if you go in a public restroom and then only if a child is present. But we all know that adults have to use public restrooms. If not every day, then virtually every day. And it's impossible to spend a week or two of your life, much less years or your entire adult life, with being certain that the only time you go into a public restroom is when no children are present. So once again, when you boil it down, this bill makes it a crime to be a transgender adult in Arkansas. If passed, it would be the most extreme anti-trans law in America. Now, you may not understand why a person would be transgender or be interested in the science around it, but at some point you have to recognize the basic humanity of a person. And there's nothing more human than having to go to the bathroom. And this bill criminalizes that. And that's cruel. Now, I know many, if not most of y'all, disagree with every word that I've just said. Now, while that may be personally disappointing for me, I also recognize that. So I'm going to ask you to indulge me and set everything I said just now all to the side and pay attention only to what I'm going to say from this point forward, because what I'm going to say from this point forward has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a Democrat. It will not be based on any political, philosophical, or ideological difference that you and I may have with each other. I'm going to talk about the language in the bill only, okay? So let's start with the easy stuff. On page 7, line 14 of this bill, there's a missing line. There's a line missing in the bill. Now, I've discussed this with Senator Payton. He's agreed to change that in the House, but that didn't stop or even slow down this bill from passing out of committee when there's missing language in the bill. Beyond that, as y'all know, this makes it a crime to go into a bathroom and remain there of the opposite sex and remain there if a child is present. There's an exception in the bill if it's your own child who's 6 years old or younger. But there's no gender language in the exception. So the way the bill is written, an adult man can take his 5 or 6 year old son into a women's room and hang out there all day. And under this bill, it's not a crime. Now, Senator Payton said in committee that does not match his intent. But did that slow this bill down from coming out of committee? Not even a bit. Beyond that, and this Senator Love got at this in his question. I asked Senator Payton in committee, are you aware of a single instance in Arkansas of this happening? Someone going into a bathroom of the opposite sex and it causing harm to a child. Now, he said he's aware of some constituents who have a concern about it, but he's not aware of a single instance of that ever happening. Now, we know that's not going to slow the bill down because we pass bills out of here all the time without any evidence of a problem whatsoever. But I want to talk for a minute. I want to go a little deeper on the bill, a little more into the meat. As many of y'all know, crimes consist of elements. These are the facts that prosecutors have to prove in order to obtain a conviction. By and large, elements consist of two categories: a mental state and then behavior that we as a society want to prevent or criminalize. There are some crimes like murder that depend on a result, like the death of another person, but by and large, there are two types of elements for crimes: a mental state and behavior that we want to prevent and criminalize. In this bill, there is a mental state, knowingly, which Senator Payton amended into the bill. It was not in there originally. The behavior that the bill seeks to prevent and criminalize is entering and remaining into a public changing facility, which is basically a public bathroom, and remaining there while a child is present. As I mentioned, there are two types of elements generally that are in crimes: mental states and behaviors. This adds a physical trait of a person's body to being an element of a crime. So what this means is, if we believe it and agree with it, that the only people who can harm a young boy in a men's room are those people who were born with vaginas. Or the only people who can harm a young girl in a women's room are those who were born with penises. Now, what does that have to do with whether you're harming a child or not? It doesn't have anything more to do with whether you were born with brown hair or one arm or green skin. That's why prosecutors and states don't put physical traits of a person as an element of a crime for an offender. Y'all might ask me, I'm going to stop talking about the bill now. And you might ask me, Tucker, why are you down there so long, beating up on a bill that is so obviously flawed? And at the risk of answering a question with a question, my question to the membership is, what is a bill that's in this kind of shape doing on the floor of the Arkansas State Senate? And even worse, why does it stand such a high chance of passing? I was elected to the state Senate on November 3rd, 2020. The first event that I attended as a senator-elect was a dinner on November 5th, the night before our organizational meeting. At that dinner, Senator Hickey, who was the incoming president pro tem, had a gift and a message for all of us. The gift was a knife. And the message was not for us to stab each other. The message was that iron sharpens iron. Now, I liked that. I knew coming into this body that there were going to be laws that were passed that I disagree with from a philosophical standpoint, and I accept that. But what I thought that meant is that we as a membership would work hard to get bills in the best shape that they can be in before we pass them, or we don't pass them. And how many times have we heard this? Oh, this bill is flawed. I, as the bill sponsor, agree. But I promise I'll get it fixed in the House. Now, I don't know about you, Senator Hickey, but I'm worried that some folks have left their iron at home because we need to see some more sharpening around here. And this is the point I'm trying to drive home. Vetting bills is not partisan. Vetting bills is not partisan. It requires good faith, mutual respect, and hard work, and that's it. Vetting bills should never be partisan, but it should especially not be partisan when one party has over 80% of the seats in the legislative body. If vetting becomes partisan in that circumstance, then we end up with a whole lot of bad laws on the books. Now, I don't want to suggest that there's no vetting taking place. Just in Senate state agencies yesterday, Senator Hammer and Senator McKee pulled bills down based on questioning from Senator Payton, Senator Dotson, and myself. And I want to compliment Senator Payton and Senator Dotson for asking those questions, and I want to especially compliment Senator Hammer and Senator McKee for being open to hearing those questions. But we can do better than we've been doing. And y'all know that we can do better than we've been doing. The people of Arkansas deserve better than we've been doing. We're down here not to make political statements or for our own egos or for social media posts. We're down here to make laws. And if we pass laws like this one and somebody breaks it, they're going to prison. The people of Arkansas deserve our best effort. And we can start right now with a vote on this bill. We can say, Senator Payton, no matter how much we like you, and I know we all do. Senator Payton, no matter how much we respect you, and I know we all do, I know that I do. Senator Payton, no matter how much we like what you're trying to do here, which I personally don't, some of y'all may, but no matter how much we like what you're trying to do here, when a bill comes to the floor in this shape, It's not passing the Arkansas State Senate. Let's see what happens.
His actual speech was a little bit longer. I want to tell you that immediately after his speech, the Arkansas senator who authored the drag ban seemed to waver in his support of this bill and asked probing questions. Several other Republicans stood up and were like, yeah, we can't really pass this bill as is. Please, can you please pull it? And in the end, the sponsor of this bill pulled the bill back to committee. This doesn't mean that the bill is dead. It will probably be heard again in the committee, but even delaying it is a huge victory. And perhaps with the additional time, the bill can finally truly meet its eventual demise. Great job, Senator Tucker.
I've never known someone like you, tangled in.
An afternoon in the life of a trans woman. I start off the afternoon with a single soy chicken strip, a soy latte, 3 pumps of estrogen, and 3 birth control pills because I'm a woman, please don't call me trans. After my single womanly meal of the day, I remember that my entire sense of womanhood is a stereotype and I haven't turned my woman on today, so I need to go and do my makeup. Because I wasn't a woman when I woke up, or when I take any of these things off, it's only from the hours of noon till midnight. And coincidentally, it's the same reason you'll never see me on this app presenting masculinely, like, look at all these videos where I look so femme. I head over to the local birth simulator, but then I remember I'm on birth control. It's now time for my daily flight to London so that I can go and meet my best friend J.K. Rowling to use her restroom. And then she screams she's gonna write a book about me pretending to be a woman, but she's gonna write it under the pen name of a man. I'm like, that's very trans-masc of you. Then end my afternoon by canceling Aretha Franklin on Twitter, because we're not natural women. You should never use an adjective to describe me.
Government, cause urine speaks louder than words on a prison warden or on a park policeman. Urine speaks louder than words.
Let's talk about the way that people misuse and overuse these 6 terms. Number 1, the person who says, oh my God, I'm so OCD, when in reality, you're just very particular and you're organized about your life. That is not the same. People who use the word bipolar to describe someone who's had just, maybe a mood shift, or they went from feeling one thing and now they're feeling another thing. That is not being bipolar. Using the term gaslighting in a moment where you're experiencing conflict, or someone's challenging you, or someone even said something that you just don't happen to agree with. That is not gaslighting. The beloved calling people narcissists. A person is not a narcissist just because they're an asshole or because they are self-centered or egotistical. Use that word. Use those terms. And lastly, saying that something is depressing or something makes you depressed. The actual experience of depression feels nothing like a fleeting moment of sadness or discomfort. Please stop perpetuating ableism by misusing and overusing these terms.
Shit like this brings the movement down. Everyone's a feminist until there is a spider around.